Hello, biology students, and welcome to Bikini Bottom Genetics with Miss Shimel. Scientists at Bikini Bottom have been investigating the genetic makeup of the organisms in this community. Use the information provided in your knowledge of genetics to answer each question. For each genotype below, indicate whether it is heterozygous, HE, or homozygous, HO. Remember that your genotype is your type of genes, the alleles you inherit. Which form of the chromosome did you get from dad and mom? Dad gave you one of the letters, mom gave you the other. In this case, we need to decide if each of the two-letter combinations is heterozygous or homozygous. Heterozygous means that you have two different letters, different sizes. So they're still the same alphabet letter for the same trait, but you might have gotten the dominant allele or the recessive allele from either parent. Heterozygous is also known as hybrid or mixed. Homozygous, on the other hand, H-O, M-O, those are the same alphabet letters. They're the same size. That means purebred, pure, 100% the same. So, take a moment to fill out your answers for heterozygous or homozygous. If you have capital letter big T, that's going to be homozygous. So you can write in ho, or you could actually put homo, or you could put homozygous, whichever you like. For big B, little b, this one is going to be heterozygous. So you could write heterozygous, you could put hetero, or you could just write HE for big B, little b. Can you do the rest of them? At this time, I've marked the homozygous answers. Big T, big D, big D, big D. Little t, little t, little d, little d. Big D, little d is actually going to be heterozygous here. But little f, little b, big B, and big F are actually homozygous. This time I just have marked the ones that are heterozygous, the ones that are hybrid, the ones that have a capital and a lowercase letter. These are mixed. For example, big B, big F, big D, big T, little t. The rest of the ones that are not marked are all homozygous, purebred. To finish out question number 1, which of the genotypes would be considered purebred? Any of the ones that you have listed above as being homozygous or listed as HO, those are going to be the purebreds. For example, big T, big D, big D, little t, little d, little d. Which ones would be hybrids? The hybrids are going to be all the heterozygous ones. Big B, big F, little f. These are the ones that are homozygous, pure, big T, big D, and so on. These ones for which genotypes are hybrids are all the mixed ones, capital and lowercase, like big B, big F, little f, big D, little t, plus the big T. And it doesn't matter which letter you put first. We usually put the dominant, then the recessive. But the recessive before the dominant still means the same thing. Question number 2 asks you to determine the phenotype, the physical appearance. How do these things look? Based on the genotype that is given. The genotype is the combination of two letters, two alleles, two genes, two chromosomes that you inherit from your parents. They have to tell you some information to help you out with number 2. For example, yellow is dominant over blue. Square is dominant over round. Give it a try. How do you look if these are your letters, your alleles, your genotype? In this case, the first one is homozygous dominant, so it's yellow. The second one is heterozygous hybrid for yellow, but it still looks yellow. And little y is homozygous recessive, which would appear blue. In regard to square versus round, the first one is going to be square, and the second one is also square, but the third one would be round, homozygous recessive. For question number 3, you are asked to figure out the alleles, the combination of letters. You're given the phenotype, the physical appearance. But how do you write the genotype? Try it out. So for number 3, we know that tall is dominant over short. T is going to be the capital letter for tall. Little t is going to be the recessive for short. So there's 2 ways to write tall, since you can be homozygous tall or heterozygous tall. We get big T or big T, little t. But short, being recessive, must be lowercase, lowercase. In regard to pink body, the same thing applies. Big P, homozygous dominant. Big P, heterozygous dominant. But yellow body must be lowercase, lowercase. Take a look at question number 4. Sponge Susie round pants is recessive, whereas SpongeBob heterozygous for his square shape is dominant. Can you do the Punnett square? Can you figure out the chances of a child with a square shape? What about a round child? Take a moment. SpongeBob is heterozygous. We put his genes up on top. He has the big S and little s. We're going to transfer these down. He either puts in the large, dominant gene, or he puts in the recessive gene into his sperm. It's totally random which one he does. It's a 50-50 chance either way. Sponge Susie, we know, is homozygous because she's recessive. The only way to write her roundness is little letter s's. So we place her over here on the left. Whenever she makes the eggs, she can only pass on the little s. It doesn't matter whose letter S comes first, whether it's SpongeBob or Sponge Susie's, but there are 4 offspring here in this Punnett square. What are the genotypes for the children? They're either big S, or little s, little s. Based on that, the big S, little s are going to appear square, and the little s are going to appear round. So what are the chances of a child with a square shape? If we count up here, we have 1, 2. 2 out of 4, or 50%. What are the chances of a child with a round shape? 1, 2. 2 out of 4, which is also 50%. Something I would like to point out here that is not stated in this question is the fact that both SpongeBob SquarePants and Sponge Susie Round Pants could have a whole bunch of children. They could have a bunch of them, and every single one of them in a row ends up being square, square, square. They could have 100 kids, and they're all squares. That's possible. It's not probable, because for every 4 children, most likely 2 are square, and the other 2 are going to be round. Patrick and Patty met at a dance. Both are heterozygous for their pink body color. Remember that pink is dominant from question number 3. Can you do question 5? Pause the video. Check back in a moment. Both Patrick and Patty are big P, little p, heterozygous, mixed for their dominant trait. List the possible genotypes for their children. They can end up being big P, or big P, or little p, little p. What are the phenotypes? These ones will both end up being pink, whereas the little are going to end up being yellow. This ratio of 1 to 2 to 1 plays a large role whenever we look at heterozygous hybrid parents mating. You should always get this genotypic ratio of 1 purely dominant, 2 that are heterozygous, and 1 that is going to be homozygous recessive. That will translate to a 3 to 1 ratio at the end for dominant to recessive. So in this case, what are the chances of a child having a pink body? Number 1, number 2, number 3 are all going to be pink bodies. Out of 4 possible, for 75%. What are the chances of a child with a yellow body? This is the only one yellow right here. So that's 1 out of 4. That's a 25% chance. Something not shown in this video, again, is that fact that if you take 2 parents who are hybrid heterozygous for the trait, like being an awesome student, what are the results of having children that are awesome students? It should be a 3 to 1 ratio of awesome, and then only 1 would be a lousy student. There would be a genotypic ratio of 1 to 2 to 1 for homozygous dominant, heterozygous dominant to homozygous recessive. Anytime you do classical Mendelian genetics, where there is a dominant trait and both parents are heterozygous, you should always get 3 dominants to always 1 recessive. Take a look at question number 6 for Squidward's family. We're talking about light blue being dominant. We're talking about green being recessive. Can you do question 6? I placed Squidward up on top as Big B because he's a purebred line. His wife is the light green skin. She's little b. What are the possible genotypes and phenotypes for their children? All the children end up being Big B, little b. What's the phenotype? They're all going to be light blue, just like Squidward. If purebred Squidward and his light green skinned woman get together and have children, all the children will be Big B, little b. They'll all be hybrid, heterozygous. 100% should have light blue skin. 0 should be green like their mother. Would Squidward's children be purebreds, pure homozygous? No way. They're now hybrids. They're heterozygous. The only thing the mother could put in her egg was the little b because she's green. The only thing that Squidward could pass on in his sperm cells would be the Big B. If you have Big B plus little b, all the babies from mom and dad end up being hybrid, heterozygous. Number 7 is one of those classical Mendelian genetics cases where you take 2 hybrid parents. Do you know the genotypic ratio you should get? What about the phenotypic ratio? Do you even need to do a Punnett square? If both parents are heterozygous, list the possible genotypes and phenotypes for children. There should be 1 that is big, 2 that are big, small, and 1 that is small. It's a 1 to 2 to 1 genotypic ratio. How many are light blue? 3 out of 4. How many are light green, recessive? 1 out of 4. It is a 1 to 2 to 1 genotypic ratio and a 3 to 1 phenotypic ratio. Keeping that in mind, what are the chances of a child with light blue skin? 75%. Light green? 25%. Just like if you're awesome and your partner is awesome as a student, whenever you have babies, there's a 3 to 1 ratio of good students, awesome students, to 1 being recessive, 1 lousy student. For question number 8, do you know Mr. Krabs? Do you know Mrs. Krabs? Do you know who they bring home from the hospital? Take a look at this question and see if you can answer. Don't forget that Mr. Krabs is homozygous for his tall eyeballs. He is up on top. We put mom off to the side. She's big T, little t. We made the babies, the offspring, and they all end up being either homozygous dominant or heterozygous dominant. The phenotype, the physical appearance, is all tall, for the offspring having tall eyeballs just like their dad. So it's not possible for them to bring home a short-eyeballed baby. Did the hospital make a mistake? Maybe. We don't know who Mrs. Krabs is. We don't know if they're talking about Pearl, because Pearl is actually a whale. And she's also adopted and maybe isn't the daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Krabs in the sense of birthing, because how could a crab actually have a whale? So another possibility could exist that the hospital did not make a mistake, but maybe there was just a random genetic mutation. If we look at the parents, the father, homozygous dominant, and the mom, heterozygous dominant over here, these should be the offspring. All 4 children should have either homozygous dominant or heterozygous dominant, but they should all have tall eyeballs. If they brought home a baby that didn't have tall eyeballs, well then maybe the hospital made a mistake. Maybe there was a random genetic mutation. Maybe they're talking about Pearl, who's a whale. Thanks for doing this.